If everyone could please rise for the pledge and then remain standing for a moment of silence for all of our servicemen who are stationed around the globe. Before I hand the meeting over to Dr. Pelletieri for the superintendent's report, you'll notice that many of us are wearing blue tonight. The Board of Education, the Sachem administration, and staff would like to recognize the month of April as Autism Awareness Month. Tonight, we wear blue not just to bring awareness for 1 month, but for every day, and give honor to those families with special needs children. Mr. Pelletieri?
Thank you very much. I believe we are going to start with the recognition of students, as we always like to start our board meetings. Mr. Butel, you want to come up, please, if you don't mind? I understand we're going to recognize some of our scholar athletes, some of our outstanding student athletes. But the kids are quieter here than they are in class, it seems like.
They're excited. Good evening, Mr. Piccarello, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Pelletieri, members of the cabinet. Tonight, we're going to honor some of our student athletes and for the accolades that they received this past year while playing. Obviously, it's a great reward because with sports being up in the air for so long, not knowing, it was great to see them finally out there on the courts, in the pools, in the alleys, if you will be, on the mats. And not only along that, but they were able to showcase their talents and receive some accolades. So without further ado, I'm going to start. And I already warned this gentleman that he'll be going first. Nick Walker, Sachem Boys Bowling. Nick, come on up.
Nick, don't go away. I'm going to have questions, believe me. You in particular.
Nick was unable to join us a few weeks ago when we honored a lot of our all Long Island team members. Don't go far, Nick.
Give him the microphone so he's ready.
Yes. Nick, as a junior, had a phenomenal season. He bowled a Suffolk County best 831 series, which consisted of 3 consecutive 277 games. One of the highlights of the season was Nick's victory at the Suffolk County Boys Single Tournament. Nick is a great bowler, team leader, and all-around solid individual. Both Nick and his coach are looking forward to another great season his senior year. As I said, Nick was an all-county Newsday Athlete of the Week and all Long Island this past year. Nick Walker.
Nick, how many years? Hi, Nick. Look at me. How many years you been bowling?
About 12,
About 12. How old are you?
17.
Oh, okay. So you, about 5 years. Did you start by rolling it down that ramp?
No, I did like a man.
Oh, wow.
I
I guess I won't say my joke that I still use that thing then, right? With the gutter guards and that thing.
I mean, it's pretty useful.
Let me ask you something. It's what?
It's pretty useful.
Oh, it's useful. I thought you were going to say bowling's easy because
No.
it has defied logic for me. My mother says I'm not spinning it enough out of my hand. I have gotten consultation from a lot of people, including I see kids today now, professional bowlers, young bowlers, use 2 hands. They don't put their finger in the hole. They spin it like they hold it with 2 hands. Have you seen that?
Yeah, there's pretty much just one pro who he made that a trend across the whole world.
So people are starting to pick that up.
Yeah, it's been going on for about a decade now.
What do you think about that?
I mean, if it works, it works. You do
It works for
what's
you,
best
right?
For you.
Do you have any special tip you could give me? Because I haven't bowled. You bowled 300 once in your life.
Yeah, I've got a couple actually.
Couple?
Yeah.
You say it like it's, look, you just
it's
shrug
just
your shoulders
focus.
like it's nothing. I have a hole in one. You have a hole in one?
No,
Okay, see that? You should try golf. It's not easy.
I don't have the patience for that.
You don't have to. You bowled 300 a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What is that pressure like
Oh,
standing there after 9 strikes. It's 10 strikes, right? 300?
12.
Oh, see, maybe
Yeah.
that's my problem. I'm not throwing enough balls.
Oh no, it's a lot because everyone stops and watches you. They record it
Yeah,
too.
it goes up on it, right? And people
Yeah.
start coming around. And
Yeah, you just gotta keep to yourself.
do you
Keep doing
really
it.
bowl all those strikes, or sometimes you're like, that one should have fell. I'll just count
There's
that.
always one lucky one.
Yeah.
Always one.
And what's it like standing there on the precipice after 11 strikes? What's it like that last ball? What's that pressure like?
Oh, it's unreal. It's just like I gotta do it. No going back now. You know.
Do you think that's going to help you in your life, like in other situations where you will feel pressure at some point in your life in the future? You think sports is going to help you in that way, bowling?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. I thought there might be some example or something that you, like, have you ever thought about, been in a situation outside of bowling where you felt that kind of pressure?
I mean, yeah, just like social spaces. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I'm used to people watching me.
Oh, you are used to people watching you.
Well, yeah. After all that, yeah.
Maybe I need to get more people to watch me. It'll be easier. So is there any special thing you yell out?
Oh no, I'm pretty quiet.
You're pretty quiet.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Nick, I am proud of you. You represent this district well. It's incredible at your age, what you've been accomplished. Do you have plans in the future in bowling?
I'm not really sure.
This guy, he's going to give it up. I can't bowl 300 in 3 games, and you're going to just walk away. That's pretty incredible. You don't know what you're going to do yet, but it might not be professional bowler then.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Okay. You think maybe I should take up cornhole instead of bowling? You think that'll be easier?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I see that on TV. It's kind of like a similar motion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, bowling's a lot harder, but yeah.
It does look it. It does look. Nick, thank you so much and congratulations.
you.
I appreciate it. How many people do we have, Gary?
10.
I can't pester everyone for that long. I'm sorry. I know
Okay.
people expect me now to pester everybody, but
Well, we'll take your lead on that one. The next boys I'm going to call up as a team because I'll get to a little bit of my narrative about them, but they are a team. You can't break up a relay team. I'll leave it at that and won't give the whole thing away. But they are Francis Anderson of the Satcham Boys swimming team, Quinn Honan, who I just learned moved to Washington State and won't be here tonight, Christopher Varecchio, and Brandon Wan. Boys, come on up. All these boys received all league and all county honors, and I'm sure if there would have been a state competition, they would have gone on to the state level as well this year. But they had a very successful year in the pool. And as their coach said, we're very proud of Quinn, Brandon, Francis, and Christopher for not only being all league and all county this season, but also breaking the 200 medley relay record with a time of 1:41.26. Now I have to ask, how long was that record standing for? Over a decade, right? Yeah, since I know it was up there for a long time. I do know that a lot of teams tried to break the record and they came close but couldn't do it, and you guys finally broke it. Turn on. And you also came close to another relay this year, didn't you? I thought you did. Oh, last year. I'm getting the years confused. Okay, well, great job. One of the things that Ms. Jones said about these young men is that not only are they outstanding swimmers, but they are also amazing teammates and always support one another and the entire team. Francis, Christopher, and Brandon, congratulations.
just real quick, congratulations. You're going to have to get another person now on your relay team. What's going to happen here? He's graduating. So are you guys scouting? Get a couple other people you got your eye on? You could handle it yourself otherwise? You could handle it yourself otherwise? Well, you have to have 4, right? I'm what you call a non-swimmer. What do you think of that? Any tips for me swimming? A lot of practice. Okay. Okay. I run across the bottom of the pool. Like I try to stay with 4-foot pools. So this way, yeah, it's not that pretty to look at, but it's effective. Congratulations, fellas. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to call forward Ashley Pavin from the Sachem Youth Girls Basketball Team. She received All League, All Conference, All County honors this season. Ashley? Ashley is a 3-year varsity starter and a 2-year varsity captain. This past season, Ashley averaged 13.3 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and 3.7 blocks. According to her coach, Mr. Erb, Ashley is a versatile center who could either play with her back to the basket or stretch the floor and knock down three-pointers. Ashley Pavin.
Ashley, congratulations. Are you going to continue to play as you move forward in your career? Do you know where you're going to school next year already? Not yet, but you're going to play. You're going to walk on if you have to. Yeah. All right. Congratulate. What is the triple threat position? Mackenzie, do you know the triple threat? Like when you like your coach should be saying to you, I want you to, don't get the ball. Like you should be in a triple threat. I think probably Coach Picarillo here knows what does that mean? Yeah. What does it mean? What are the three threats? Hold that microphone. You're holding it in your hand. Yeah. What could you do? What are the three things you can do once you get the ball? Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. A lot of kids get the ball. They dribble once, then they stop. Now they're not triple threat position anymore. Right. I'm just testing you. You're passing. Great job.
Next, like Mackenzie Slusick. Mackenzie? Mackenzie is also a member of the Sachem East Varsity Girls Basketball Team. She received All League, All Conference, All Academic, and All County honors. Mackenzie is a 4-year varsity starter and a 2-year varsity captain. This past season, Mackenzie averaged 17 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 3.3 steals. According to her coach, Mr. Erb, Mackenzie was the floor general. She dictated the pace of the play on offense and as a point guard and had the responsibility of guarding the other team's best player on the defensive end. Mackenzie will be attending Gettysburg College next fall, where she will continue her basketball and academic career. Mackenzie Slusick.
Kenzie, I don't know what to say or ask you. I'm very impressive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Something's wrong with that microphone, I think. Yeah. Bang it a few times, guys.
You just have to really speak into
There
it.
you go. Mackenzie, what's the triple threat position?
So you can dribble, shoot, or pass.
You knew that already.
Yeah.
The next honoree, I'm
Wait a
not
second, Mackenzie,
Oh,
what's
sorry.
your free throw percentage?
Probably about, I don't know, 80 to 85%,
Come on,
probably.
come on.
What?
You can get that up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always room for improvement.
When do you practice your free throws?
Pretty much anytime I train, mostly every day. So.
Okay, but Coach Picarillo tell you probably at the end of practice, right?
Oh yeah, we
Why do you do it at the end of practice?
Coach Herb likes to do a little drill. We get on, somebody has to make 2 free throws, and if we don't, we run sprints until somebody
Oh
does.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, you want to be gassed, right? When
Yeah,
you're
fatigue.
practicing those free throws because that's what happens in a game.
Yep.
Try to replicate that game time
Absolutely.
practice. Outstanding, Mackenzie. You are always impressing this school community, this board, myself. Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce, I'm not sure if she's here yet. I didn't get a chance to see her in the way in, but is Kennedy Hallam from the Sachem North Girls Basketball Team, who received All League, All Conference, and All County. Kennedy, are you here? I'll just read a quick little blurb on Kennedy. Kennedy was a 3-year team captain. She led the team in scoring, assists, and steals the last 3 years. One of her biggest highlights of her career was scoring 152 points this year in 7 games to reach 1,000 points. Kennedy has accepted a full athletic scholarship to play basketball and pursue her academics at Sacred Heart University. Kennedy Hallam. Next, going to call up some girls from the Sachem North cheerleading team, and they're no strangers to anyone here tonight, as we honored them a few weeks ago. But the first one I would call up is Grace Calabria. Grace? Grace also received, on top of receiving all Long Island's this year, she also received all county honors. As an 11th grader, Grace had the honor of being Newsday All Long Island first team, in which she was recognized by the board a few weeks ago. Her coaches are so proud of Grace for all her accomplishments and cannot wait to see what she accomplishes in her 5th and final season on the Sachem North varsity cheer team. And so are we. We ready to see good things.
Grace, I think I pestered you last time, right? All right, I'll save you that tonight. Unless you have something you want to say. All right. Congratulations.
Next is Jenna Locascio from the Sachem North cheerleading team as well, and she also received all county and all Long Island honors. Jenna? As I said, Jenna was recognized a few weeks ago for receiving Newsday All Long Island honors also by the Board of Education. And as you know, Jenna will continue her academic and cheerleading career at Hofstra University next year, and we wish her all the best as she pursues that endeavor. Jenna Locascio.
Jenna, anything you want? I think we spoke to you last time too, right? Anything you want to say? Thank you so much. The cheerleaders are not very talkative, right? All right, girls. Thank you so much. Mr. Butel, go ahead. Final.
I just asked we get a nice picture with
Yes,
the Board of Ed
please.
and you, Mr. Pelletieri, and
Thank
whoever else
you.
that could jump in.
Thank
I know Ms. Grisalfi's here tonight. Any other coaches that are here want to jump in, that would be great.
Going to continue now. Thank you very much. Now to SCTA, how are you? Mackenzie, how you doing? Good. Excellent, excellent. Thanks for staying. Our students will be returning, our 7th, 9th, and 10th grade students returning Monday, April 12th. We are still on schedule for that. Be prepared and welcome their return. We had talked about this the last few times, so this should not be a surprise. Monday, again, April 12th, we'll be prepared for our students to continue the process of bringing everyone in that wants to be back in for a full student return. We are expecting some guidance from the state momentarily. These next few days, they're saying around new directives with health procedures in schools. I'm hopeful that they are going to reduce the amount of quarantines that we have. I'm hopeful that they reduce some of the pieces that have made it extremely difficult to have students full in. That's been a concern. Obviously, it's something the state is working on. There's been guidance from the CDC around 3 feet rule. We're hoping that sticks with quarantines as well. I don't believe we should be bringing kids back at 3 feet and then quarantining at 6 feet. So I hope to see that change with what the guidance that's going to be coming out from the state and the Suffolk County Department of Health. I want to congratulate the Sachem Public Library, who passed their budget yesterday, and Thomas Law and Robert Winowich, who are the trustees for the Sachem Public Library. Congratulations to Neely and the team there. And lastly, I did want to talk about, last week we spoke about or 2 weeks ago, our last board meeting, we spoke about a no harm policy. We spoke about students taking the Regents or the final. And in the past, we used to use the Regents or the final at 15% of a grade for the student's cumulative grade for the year. We moved it down to 10% at one point and had offered here at the board meeting last time we met that the final or Regents, whichever score was the higher, would average into 10% of the student's cumulative grade. Board said, please hold on, take a moment, go back and look at that. We want to make sure we're not doing harm with our students. We've had a difficult year, as everyone would agree. Did go back and speak with our administrators, our teachers. They felt very strongly that we need to continue to work with our students. Our teachers know what has been taught this year. They know what we've gone through. They've gone through much of it themselves. They know about the quarantines. They know there wasn't live streaming at the beginning of the year. They know the issues that students have faced, but really feel it imperative that we continue to have some weight to the final, to the cumulative year's worth of work. They want to be able to show our students what we've learned over this past year. They feel that they can create their own finals, new finals, not finals that have been given in other years, but finals based on what was actually taught this year. And I feel they can do it effectively. And obviously, we don't want to have any harm done to any students. We don't feel that this is a harmful policy. We feel it's in the best efforts of our students and our staff. Mrs. Hines, I think we have a slide that lays this out so we can be pretty clear with what it is that we're proposing here or offering to the community.
Yes, thank you. We're just updating our slide from the last time that we presented at the last board meeting. We did go back. We had a conversation, and I will say Friday, right before the break, a whole team of us, all of our chairs, our administrators, we got together to just talk about, what is in the best interest of students. And again, I have to say, I am so proud of our teachers, and then obviously our students for the year that we've had. We've asked them from day one to continue moving forward with their curriculum, despite all the different changes that have occurred, and they have done so for us. So we do support and feel that at this point, offering a 5% for the final exam and or Regents, because again, you don't have to take both. I just want to make that clear. For a child who is a student who is passing in their class, who is supposed to take a Regents in those different areas, so algebra, English, living environment, or earth science, if they are passing the class, they can be exempt and do not have to take that Regents. But we are also asking in those particular areas and other applicable areas that take our final exams as well. But again, we are now offering 5%. And again, it's not just about taking the test, but we've always here over the past few years have talked about just taking a test is not why we teach. We teach to learn. We teach to ensure that our students are moving forward and engaged in our education. And we know that great teaching and learning went on this year, despite all of the changes. And so we do want to support our staff and our students to make sure that at the end of the day, we can take final exam data and or if a child decides to take a Regents data to see where we're at in terms of our planning for next year. That is the essence of taking an assessment. It's not just to get a test score. It's to ensure that instruction is being driven from that. As you were saying, Dr. Pelletieri, this is what we're offering. We hope that can be supported. But I do want to give kudos to our teachers and administrators and our students for the year that we've had.
I don't know if there's questions from the board.
Ms. Hines, I just have a quick question. If you take the Regents, are you going to be mandated to also take the final, or the Regents count as that 5%?
So we would still ask that the final exam. Okay. I'm sorry. I think the battery is dying on this thing. Yes, we would still ask the child. We would still ask.
Ms. Hines, do you want to just, is it okay if you move seats? Yeah. Please. I just want information to get out properly, just so.
My apologies. I can't
Yeah.
hear my own voice when I'm speaking. So yes, we would ask that our students still take the finals because we would like to offer for our students, as we said in the beginning, the best of two. So whatever is the highest score. But on top of that, as we've said, taking an assessment is not just about gathering a score. For us in particular in this school year, we are creating academic plans in each area, in particular those areas like ELA, math, science, and world languages, so that we can make sure that as they grow on to each year, is there any instruction that needs to be retaught? Is there any additional resources like Math Lab, anything along those lines that needs to be done? So we still would ask for that. But again, the hold harmless is we don't want our students to be sitting with a failing grade. On top of that, I think our teachers have really shown all year long that compassion for if a child just bombs a final for whatever particular reason, we would obviously want to go back and relook at that. So this is in no way to kind of like gotcha for the student. We just want to gauge what we've been teaching for the entire year. And as far as the Regents, just wanting to be very clear again, if the child is passing in their class, they do not have to take the Regents exam, although they can if they want to.
Yeah, please.
Besides, if you don't take the Regents this year, would you be obligated to take it next?
You never have to take it. That is obviously up to a student and their family. If they so choose to, they can. We know that the August Regents exams have already been canceled. And again, now going into the second season of Regents exams, the fact that they continue to be canceled, I'm not sure what that future is going to look like for the Regents exams, but we as a school district still need to think about how is this moving forward for us? How is our curriculum moving forward? And again, this is the information that we will be using following May and June and moving into summertime, revamping our curriculum, looking at the resources and any additional support that our students need.
Thank you.
Meredith?
And just to be clear, I think we said it last time, if a child passes one of those Regents classes, like let's say Earth Science, they pass all 4 quarters, but they just absolutely bomb the Regents itself. The passing grade from the 4 quarters is enough for the Board of Regents, correct? It's not.
Yes. And
they'll get an
let's say that a
exempt from
kid
that.
is not, a student didn't do so well, right? They maybe are failing towards the end, maybe by just a few points. So they have to take that Regents exam. If they pass that Regents exam, they could still just use the final and they could still be exempt. So it is the first time that we have total autonomy around what we're going to put on a transcript. And that's a nice place to be in. Because again, I think we said it the first time, the reasons the Regents exam is given is not for any sort of graduation credit. It's just for accountability at this point for New York State in terms of the federal government.
Is that a information that we can get readily out to the community, exactly what their rights are as far as who has to take it, who doesn't have to take the Regents, what exactly the finals are gonna, just so that, I mean, not everybody's watching, just so everybody's on the same page?
Yes, that will actually go out tomorrow.
Or on the
We
website,
just wanted to have this conversation to make sure we were all on the same page and in agreement.
I just want to thank you and your team and our administration, our department chairs, the teachers for getting back together, huddling,
Thank you.
following our lead and
Yeah.
kind of taking it to the next level.
Yeah, and I just want to say again, thank you to our chairs and our administrators who, it's very easy for us to make changes, move things around. But they have each and every time risen to the occasion. They've done really great work with making sure that the curriculum keeps moving forward. I know that they appreciate your support of this, so thank you.
Mr. Kiernan?
Chris, does this require board action?
No,
Meredith?
And what about the students that are full remote? They don't have to take anything?
So our fully remote students, and that will go out in the letter that we're sending out. And for those families that saw in our 3 through 8 and our nicest slot for our English language learners, that went out yesterday. If you are a fully remote student, you do not have to come in, but we are encouraging those families that feel like they're okay with that. We will make accommodations. We'll ensure that there's separate spaces. If they want to take that test, we would invite them in to do that. The finals will be given live streaming wise in terms of those students who are attached to a classroom that is just running their regular schedule. And Rosa is in talks right now. I know, finals, yes, but did we have enough time, or is it more beneficial for the students and those teachers to just carry out and end with their curriculum for the year?
So the full remote children will get a final in every
Yes,
class?
yes.
they just don't have to take the Regents, come in for the Regents.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to move forward now with our budget presentation. Mr. O'Keefe? Mrs. Hines, thank you.
Hopefully our technology cooperates. Doing a nice little blinking show there for us. All righty, so at the last presentation, we left off where we summarized our expenditure budget and our revenue budget, knowing that we anticipated on April 1st that the state would adopt their budget. Obviously, we all know that the state budget came in late. We literally only got the state aid runs at 8 o'clock last night. So there's still a little bit of uncertainty. So I was hoping in this fifth presentation, we'd be able to wrap everything up, but we still have a little bit of work to do. So we'll have to keep the community and the board informed as we fine tune the budget. But let's just go through a couple of things. Some of these things are a recap from last week and a couple of updates since we last met. So the timeline, this is all that's remaining. Obviously, we have tonight's meeting. The budget adoption meeting is on the 20th. We have a public hearing on May 5th, and then the vote is on May 18th. So the tax levy in the last presentation, I'd let you know it changed slightly. It went from a 199% increase to a 197. It was still pending whatever the building aid number was, because that could change the capital tax levy, which is the final number in this calculation. There was no change in building aid, so the calculation stays the same. So as stated in the last presentation, our tax levy for next year would be this $199,508,000 number, which is a 1.97% increase from the prior year. It's within the 2% tax cap and therefore only requires a simple majority vote. I know for those at home, this is difficult to see. And as I always say, this will be on the website tomorrow. This is the finalized state aid proposal. It has changed a bit from the last time we met. So if you refer back to that presentation, but just so you can see how the numbers lay out. This first column here is the current year's adopted budget. So this is from May 1st of last year. These are the numbers that the state agreed upon. In the state aid runs released last night, they modified what our aid for this year will be. And it changed slightly, went down, we're down about $1.5 million from where we originally were. And our adopted state budget is this third column. The final column is the change from year to year. So one thing to point out that's a little odd in the 2021, and I'm thinking this is a typo on the state's part. If you go to the aid, we've talked about the CARES money all year. So in the adopted budget, we expected $997,000. Basically, they took $997,000 out of state money and supplanted it with federal money. Then the update was we were going to get $1,002,000. But oddly enough, in the runs last night, it shows the reduction, but it does not show the stimulus coming to us. We finalized, we have an approved CARES Act plan that was submitted to the state. We have received $200,000 of the million. So I have 800,000 still outstanding. We've already applied for it. So I'm just thinking that they have a typo in their runs and they forgot to put that in there. I don't think it's a year-to-year type show game, but I'll certainly keep you posted. I can't imagine that they would have paid us the first 200 without paying us the whole amount. So I would still expect another $800,000 to come. So the final column, and one of the things to point out in the last meeting, we discussed how, again, the governor was trying to eliminate all of our expense-driven aids. So again, it's hard to see these numbers at home or even here in the audience, but you will see a number in almost every box. So again, he did not succeed in the elimination of expense-driven aid. So that's your BOCES aid, your high-cost aid, your software aid, things of that nature, transportation aid. He was trying to sum them all up into one category where they would not necessarily be based on what the expenditures were in the prior year, but rather just year-to-year growth. So the one good piece of news to point out to everybody, and something very unexpected, the top category, which is our primary category, foundation aid, we got a full 2% increase. We're almost $1.8 million in that category. Foundation aid has been held rather static the last number of years. It's an expense-driven aid that's based on the enrollment in the district. Obviously, we have declining enrollments, so we wouldn't necessarily expect to see growth or change here. So this is a very welcome increase. The second item is universal pre-K. Now, universal pre-K, we've been receiving the same $599,000 probably as long as any of us can remember, probably as long as we've had a universal pre-K. For whatever the reason, they have tripled the amount of money we're receiving in pre-K, to almost $1.9 million. There has not been much released yet defining how we're to use that program, whether it's to enhance more half-day, if they're driving us more to full day, or what the case is. So we'll keep you apprised once we get the final details from the state on that. But it wasn't in the runs last night, so it's got a lot of districts confused as to how to handle that, because that money, although it's in the column of state aid, is not a component of the general fund budget. So it's not monies that if we don't spend it there, we can use it somewhere else. It's really more like a grant. So they give us the grant for the X number of dollars. We run the program. We submit our finalized paperwork demonstrating we spent the money that they're going to provide us, and then they reimburse us. So while on paper it looks attractive that we picked up nearly 1.3 million, it has no impact on the general fund budget, which is what the board is considering right now. The rest of the aid categories stayed pretty static. No real changes. You can see some slight pluses and minuses in the other column. Building aid, as you would expect, because we have increased the number of projects each year the last 4 years. So we're starting to see the aid coming back to us on those projects as they're completed. So we picked up $470,000 in building aid this year, which was nice to see. But all the other categories remain basically the same. The one thing that's absent now, if you remember in the last presentation, there was a negative $11.6 million and then a positive $11.6 million, where again, they were doing this funding adjustment and then showing the stimulus money. Well, that's no longer in the state aid runs, but it's now down at the bottom, below the aid runs. So they placed the number there. It's under CRRSA and ESSER, if you look at the aid runs, and you'll see it's that exact same number from the last presentation, which was part of the formula last time. It's put down there as another number. Right now, we don't know what that number represents. Based on the very vague description they gave us, I believe those monies are already included and probably part of the reason why we received more in state aid than we might have expected. But again, that's not clear. The second category, which is the 10.57 million on the bottom, that's down here, the American Rescue Plan. That's money coming directly from the feds. It'll be funneled through the state. They did not release much information yet on that. It does appear it's going to be like a grant. The limited information, both from ASBO, my professional organization, and NISCUS, Dr. Pelletieri's professional organization, seems to point that it's going to look like the CARES Act, where we're going to have to apply for the monies. It looks like they're going to allow us, I believe, up to 4 years to spend the monies. It's just not defined specifically what we use it for. I mean, there's some reference to technology, non-recurring expenses, expenses related to COVID, things of that nature. But until we get the final details in the actual grant application, I can't say with any certainty what we're going to be able to use the money for or when it's even going to be available to us. Any questions here on this slide before we move on? Yep. So the revenue projection, I just tweaked it slightly. This is basically the same slide you saw last time. The only thing on this slide that's changed is down here on the state aid components. You'll see $129.9 million there. You'll say, well, how come you didn't put the 131 million that I saw on the last slide, Mr. O'Keefe? Again, the pre-K money does not go into our revenue for the general fund. So why is it not the exact amount of money, the 1.8? It's only 1.28 million. That's because we get about $600,000 a year in homeless aid, which is not represented in the aid runs. It's outside of the aid runs. So each year I would show you this number with the 600 here, because it nets out, it's the same. So instead of confusing people, because the only thing you see publicly when you look in the paper, you go online, are these aid runs, and you see the pre-K money, you don't see the homeless money. Since it was the same number, 600 and 600, we just left it in as part of the calculation. But this year, since now we have this new larger amount of money, I need to break that out and hold it to the side for the pre-K program. So I'm only placing the 129.9 million in the state aid components, bringing our current revenue budget to $336,955,000. which is about a $3.6 million increase or 1.08%. And again, it's based on that 1.97% tax levy increase. And then I give you a little caveat here that it includes homeless aid, but does not include the pre-K funding. And the other thing to point out is as of right now, since we're not done with this process, there's no recommendation of appropriating any reserves or fund balance, until we get a clear picture of where we stand. Any questions? No? Okay, retirement savings. At the March 17th special board meeting, there was a memorandum that Dr. Pelletieri explained to the public, which extended the window for teachers to declare their intent to retirement. They normally declare their retirement on March 1st of each year. We pushed that back to April 5th. Certainly this is a difficult year and it's challenging and people have very difficult and tough decisions. This is their livelihood, their career, something they've done their whole lives and they love. So it wasn't an easy year for people to try to make that decision. So we gave them another month to come to that decision to decide. So that's why last time I couldn't do this slide like I normally do, but this sums up where we're at. So as of Monday, we had 30 teachers who submitted their letters of retirement. Congratulations. Now in a budget that we've already reviewed and past presentations, those teachers that are in the general fund budget, it was 29 of them, you have $3.7 million approximately of salaries of those people that are now leaving us. When I factor in the 29 people coming in as their replacements, because we're replacing all those positions, and not necessarily in kind. So you may have an elementary teacher that'll retire, but maybe we need secondary speech. We're going to replace that teacher where we need it in the district and in the budget, not necessarily in that same classroom. So we have about $1.8 million worth of salaries for those replacements. So our net salary savings is about $1.9 million. Now you're also going to save FICA on the people that retired, your Social Security expenses, as well as the TRS contribution expenses. So the total actual savings in the 21-22 budget is $2.266 million. So that'll get factored in now to the expenditure budget to reduce the budget for next year. Any questions here?
Stella? Yep.
John, what are you envisioning of the 30 teachers that you're going to be replacing?
In what?
All 30?
Right now, it looks like we're going to do all 30. I mean, certainly staffing is not done yet. Obviously, if we go through the process and there's not necessarily a need, we'll hold off on that and we'll keep that as a contingent spot in case we have breakage, over the summer. But right now, based on what we're seeing, especially as we start preparing for a 9-period day the year after next, positions, like I said, may not be replaced on the elementary level. They may move to the secondary level. Anything else? All right. So this is a slide, if you remember, from over a year ago now, where we started talking about various budgetary enhancements. So this is a slide that's new to this year's presentation. It's a rehash from last year. So now we're getting to the end of the process. We still have some needs, and as I said through the whole budget process, since we did not know what our revenue picture looked like, we were not placing any enhancements. It was a pure rollover budget. But we decided we'll bring these items back forward to the conversation. And again, we still have to see, how this all pans out for us once all the numbers are crunched. But at the elementary level, there is a requirement for compliance to have an elementary guidance counselor. So we're recommending 2 guidance counselors, one possibly for the East feeder and one for the North feeder. I'm sure that, Ms. Hines and Dr. Pelletieri would work out, where those counselors would work. 2 high school nurses were an item up for discussion last year. Each of our high schools only has 2 nurses, which is similar to our middle schools. But as you know, the high schools have enrollment twice that of the middle schools. So we were looking to add an extra nurse in each of those buildings. And another item that was up for discussion last year was an extra custodian, because we know we have issues there where we just don't have enough manpower on that second shift when they're trying to clean the buildings. So if we were to add these items into the budget, it would add a salary cost of about $840,000. When you factor in all the various benefits, Social Security, ERS, TRS, and health insurance, it's about $1.35 million. So again, this is just for discussion. Nothing's been finalized on this, but we wanted to bring this back to the board's attention from the last budget cycle, because these were things that we were struggling with at the end of the budget cycle and were unable to keep in the final budget, so we had to pull back. Do you have any questions?
Kieran?
John, whatever happened to the extra security guards?
That was another item too, but that we didn't bring that in here because it does still seem that everything there is working out. I mean, we have increased security throughout the district. I know there was a discussion for adding a guard in each vestibule. Again, that could be another item for board discussion, but it would require hiring 15 more guards.
John, I don't remember what that figure was, so when you get a chance.
Sure.
get it for me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Meredith?
So regardless of all these other positions, no matter what, we definitely have to do the 2 guidance counselors for this coming school year, correct?
Well, currently, Ms. Graham is taking care of the necessary compliance, but Ms. Graham is also the director of the department, so it takes her away from those duties. I think at one point during the budget cycle, we were even trying to place 1 guidance counselor in last year. But quite fairly, I mean, that would be quite the challenge, 1 person to cover 10 buildings. So it was Dr. Pilateri's recommendation to place in 2, and let's see where it can go.
Gustavo?
John, I know I wasn't here for the last budget cycle conversations with regards to custodians and security guards. You know, I mean, one of our main objectives here as a board is to really kind of promote and help enhance the education of our students. And over the last, decade, we've seen our numbers, our cap numbers go up at the elementary school level, to the point where we're starting to see 30 kids in a 5th grade class, which is a very, very large number. Has there been any discussion about looking at lowering that cap by 1? How many? Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I got an echo. What would be required as far as FTEs to lower each grade level from K through 5 down by one student? So instead of having a cap of 30 at the 5th grade level, now we bring it down to 29. A cap of 28 at the 4th grade level.
Yeah, we could certainly research it. I wouldn't know it off the top of my head, but it would probably be you'd be adding quite a number of FTEs at the elementary level where you have declining enrollments. The enrollments at the elementary levels are shrinking. We're losing, we know 300 kids a year.
But if there's a kind of enrollment, then we could get as many FTEs if we had that 300.
Yeah, but we're also going to be adding a period in the 5 other buildings. So we're going to need upwards of 50 FTEs to cover the 9-period day. So there's going to be
I would like to see the cost of that.
Sure.
We're going to cost security. I'd like to see the cost of that because that's directly relates to education by students as well.
The one thing to remember, though, it doesn't break as evenly as just lowering 1. It would be across the 10 elementary schools. So it wouldn't just be adding 1 teacher per grade level to bring it down. It could turn out to be multiple teachers per grade level to bring it down.
Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to dispute that statement. Security guards and safe and secure schools is as important as teaching. And to think that that we should be doing one over the other is wrong. So, I don't know what your reference was there.
Jim, I don't know why, it wasn't meant in a negative manner. All I was doing there, cost of what it would be to lower the cap level.
No, before that, you made statements, before the cost. Before that, you
I
said,
said it
it
was
is
like
our
the standard
duty as a
cost.
board to educate the kids. And then you said custodians and security, you're pushing them aside. It's not part of that.
I don't recall saying it was anything aside. I was saying I would like to see the cost. What it would be bringing it fees to another. So I'm not saying one is more important than the other or have less regard to one profession over another. I'm just asking for the cost.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you interpreted it, but
Well, I did, and I think people out there may have also.
I apologize if it was interpreted.
John and Dr. Pelletieri, and maybe there's only 5 of us here tonight. I think that there is going to be many of us that are going to have questions about costs and what we can afford and what we can't afford. Is there a way that we can call for a special meeting next week that maybe we have the more cement numbers, we can get more information?
It might be something we need to do so we can have just specifically
Because
a
we
board
are
meeting.
running out of time, so we're going to need to get these.
Right,
numbers.
either that or you're coming down to the wire and doing it in your adoption meeting, which could be difficult.
Is that okay for everybody here to call for a special meeting next Wednesday?
If I could just add a little bit,
Please.
I'm not sure we had a conversation about what's grant funded as well. As we look at sections and we look to break sections, we do have positions in the grant that allow us to lower class size. So it may not be every single grade, but when we look at that, we do pay attention to making sure that if something looks like it's at that level or may possibly rise over that, special education classes or general education classes, we do have some positions in there for that as well.
We may be able to fund some of it as well with the drop in enrollment, as Mr. O'Keefe mentioned, by just keeping those staff on rather than removing them.
Yeah.
So we'll pull all that together.
We're looking at it, $2.2 million savings in time. You know, if we're not gonna realize, you know, if we're able to enhance the education of our kids, they maybe not realize a large, you know, it's larger savings. You know, what does that look like? That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
I could tell you that, you know, speaking to people out in the community, people want to know what education enhancements we're making in this budget. What are we doing? Are we providing more technology? Are we providing small sizes? People want to know, you know? So, you know, certainly, like I said, whether we can do it this year or not, I'm not sure, but I certainly want to know what that number is.
Yeah, we can work that up for you.
Yeah, Alex, Wednesday's no good for me, so if you can look around at other dates.
I'm good. Whenever anybody is free, I'm okay. So maybe we can talk about it after so that we can get a heads up from the other members that are not here tonight too. Kind of pick a day where we give John and the rest of the cabinet, Dr. Pelletieri, enough
Yeah.
time to get that information that everybody needs so that we can have that discussion.
We'll try to come up with a date and time that we can propose to the board when everyone's available.
With the benefits for the 15 guards is about 800,000. All right. My clicker seems to have stopped. There we go. So just to sum up where we are right now, in our last meeting, we discussed that the initial draft budget came in at $343,629,000. We discussed the 2.266 million in retirement savings. And then if we factor in those enhancements we just spoke about in the last slide, it would bring our revised draft budget to $342,722,000. So that's a slight decrease from where we were last time. You might remember we had an $8.5 million budgetary gap, which is about 2.5% or so. Right now we have about a $5.7 million budget gap. In other words, the expenditures in the draft budget exceed available revenues. But the gap is, I mean, it's a very large number. It's only about 1.7% of the budget. You know, so it is a manageable number. We'll need to go back, take a look at that. We'll have to see how those American Rescue monies might factor in to absorb some of the expenditures from the general fund budget. We can utilize those for either technology purposes, AIS. There's summer school monies available within those numbers, as far as we're aware, things like that. But as of right now, we still do not have a balanced budget.
You know, I'll just jump in there, Mr. O'Keefe, and just bring everyone's attention to that again. $5.7 million budget gap that we're facing, despite all that we've done, all the good work that we've done and the board has done in this community around this. So yes, when we get more information around the American Recovery Plan and some of these other pieces of the budget, hopefully we will end up, I know we will end up where we need to be at some point.
Right. I mean, there may be a recommendation to appropriate some reserves, but certainly I'm not just going to arbitrarily recommend that we plug the gap by taking $5.7 million out of reserves and balance the budget. I want to go back, look and see where there's room to change things. Obviously, there could be other board discussion for different opportunities, whether again, they be this year or next year. Maybe these items that are in these enhancements from last year, maybe some of them make it, maybe some of them don't. Or they get pulled back, and obviously that shrinks the gap by $1.3 million. But those were needs identified, through administration, through the building. Certainly a building of 2,000 students, it is difficult running it with just the 2 nurses. The guidance counselor is a compliance issue, so it is a necessity. Certain districts obviously could possibly afford to have 1 in every building. That's not something I think we can be at any time soon. Certainly 2, 1 covering 5 buildings is something we probably could put into the budget at this time. The custodians certainly are an important item. We have elementary buildings that do have, in normal times, tremendous amount of community use in the evening. They are 70 to 80,000 square foot buildings, and they only have 2 men on duty. Even when both are there, at best, that's a difficult task for them to clean the building thoroughly and properly. But somebody's out on vacation, somebody's out sick, whatever the case is, if you can't get a sub there, not only do you have a person working alone, but you have an impossible situation of them being able to clean that building properly. So we have added custodians back into middle schools and high schools over the years. The elementary was the one area we had not gotten back to yet. So that was that recommendation. That was the reason for it. So our next discussion officially is the 20th. Obviously, stay tuned for a special meeting, hopefully sometime next week. And the vote will be on May 18th. Any other questions?
John, I just have a question. I don't know who's the best person to answer this, but
Sure.
what do we envision school looking like next year? Is it going to be similar to this year where you think that we're going to have some kids home, some kids here? We're going to have ROSA. We're not going to have ROSA. We're going to have teachers live streaming. We're not. We're going to have mixed classes. And is that included in the budget, and what do we need for that?
We have taken some of that into account, obviously thought through that. We don't have all the answers to that. Last year in August, the governor turned around and said, you're going to have remote school and you're going to pay for it yourself. You're going to figure it out yourself. And some districts were better suited or better situated to be able to do that. I don't know if we're going to be having remote again next year. I don't know what the state is going to demand on that end. My sense is we would be doing it more likely during the day with our live streaming capabilities that we have now. But again, that's a discussion that we would have to have. I don't know, again, to what extent they are going to. I don't believe we'll have hybrid in any way. I believe we'll be in. I don't know in terms of some of the other pieces around masks and things like that, but I think we'll have a typical full sense of school 5 days a week, K through 12. There may be a remote mandate, there may not be. And then once we know that and to what extent it is, we'll be able to act on it.
Yeah, but for something like ROSA is not in the proposed budget. It's just a return to normal night school and a return to normal home education. So like we have home tutoring, where a teacher will go to the house of a medically fragile child or whatever the case is. That's how we paid for ROSA this year. We bundled our night school monies and our home instruction monies and used those monies to pay for ROSA. I returned those 2 programs to their normalcy. So they're back to where they were.
Right.
Yeah.
John, a couple of weeks back, Budget Advisory Committee presented a technology proposal for the board to consider in regards to putting devices in the hands of our students. And bring them into the 21st century. Where does that fit into this budget? We have unspent monies this year in our budgets that we're planning on spending on technology. I guess the proposed plan was to go with a 9 through 12 model first, which would require the purchase of about $800,000 worth of Chromebooks for kids. Are we able to do that in this year's budget? And what is next year's technology budget looks like being proposed? Are we able to do something with the?
Yeah, that's anything equipment related, whether it be technology, facilities, athletics. As I pointed out earlier, we froze most of that spending at the beginning of the year because we were anticipating a $26 million cut. As of day before yesterday, we received our expected full March 31st, April 1st payment from the state of New York. So it does not appear that they are withholding any more of our money. They've refunded us now the monies that they did withhold at the end of last year and earlier this year. And we got a full expected $30 million payment now. So Dr. Pelletieri and I and the rest of the cabinet have already been discussing, we're going to start moving forward with all the equipment purchases that were targeted for this year, get them done. I'm going to do a new fund balance projection with Mr. Sachs. We'll go to Dr. Pelletieri with what available monies that we have. And we're probably going to come forward to the board asking for a budgetary transfer to move forward with either all or part of that recommendation from the Budget Advisory Committee. So the equipment that's in the 21-22 budget that's going to actually, all of those items are going to change now in the next few days. Because now if I'm going to be able to buy those items in this year's budget, or we did next year's equipment budget, we moved this year's items to next year because we thought we lost, so like this year, we need a new transmitter for the radio station. I've already got purchasing, they've bid that out. So we'll be moving forward with that, with new connects for the transmitter to go into, 2 new security vehicles, trucks, $1 million worth of computers. There's not counting even the recommendation of the one-to-one devices. So there are things that are already going to start rolling in motion that over the next 5 or 6 days, I have to figure out exactly where we stand before we come back together to finalize the budget. Because all the equipment numbers are going to change around a bit.
Now, the fact that it's a rollover budget, what we budgeted in the 2021 budget is what's being budgeted next year for technology as well,
With a little growth.
with a little bit of.
Yeah, each year we gave a little growth.
So the question is, it's feasible possibly get a one-to-one platform with a 9 through 12 the next year.
I would think without a problem, you should have 9 to 12. I think there's maybe even a chance that you're going to push down to the middle school.
Yeah, we're looking at that very closely, Mr. Scavo, and hoping that perhaps with some of the new funding from the feds as well, that we could go 6 through 12. That would really be kind of an ultimate goal for us. And we'll, of course, come and talk about that before we make those.
Yeah, because getting the
final
clarity
outlays.
on that American Rescue money is going to be important, because even if I have enough surplus to say to you that we could do 7 to 12, but we find that grant money can only be used for specific things like technology purchases, it might be safer to just hold those monies in reserve. Because quite honestly, I mean, this federal money is a one-shot deal. We don't know where it's going to land next year or the year after. So we might want to position ourselves to be able to absorb, a potential loss in funding in the following year. Because once it dries up, I don't know where he plans on getting it from, unless it's from all these new taxes and fees and whatever else that's going on in the budget. So we might move forward with a recommendation for a large one-to-one purchase of some of the items and say, well, we know we have to spend, because it's $10 million, you got to do it over 4 years. Let's figure a quarter of it a year. Part of that money we could spend on that. If you remember, we put probably about $700,000 worth of COVID type money into the budget, in the facilities budget, the nursing budget, and the athletic budget. Well, maybe that comes out of the general fund budget, and now that gets targeted towards this American Rescue money. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces in the budget. So the different lines that you've been examining all year are actually going to change quite a bit. Well, you see the next budget a week from now.
The other, I really ask, not Terry, it's really few, is that, we automatically do 400 Chromebooks to the staff. And the need might not be there for 400 staff. I've spoken to some teachers and they said, look, we like the enhancement of providing technology, but Chromebook doesn't do it. I prefer to do all of my work to my desktop or maybe a laptop. And maybe those Chromebooks that we allocated could be reallocated to students as well to maybe, get us close to that one-to-one as well. But
yeah,
I know in my school, we have a technology proposal every year that's presented to teachers as to what's your needs. What do you think you need next year? And maybe we need to look at that as well. And maybe we can kind of streamline things to, look, I do all of my Google Classroom stuff from my desktop. My hands are just too big to fit on a Chromebook. It just doesn't happen. So I don't have a need for a Chromebook. And maybe that's the same situation within our own district. So,
We'll definitely take a look at it.
Sure. Good. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm gonna put out the date to the board and try to see if we can lock down at least a majority of us. And maybe if people can't make it, maybe we could just put something in an email about, you already said in public what you're looking for information as far as that. I'm gonna try to get as many people as I can on board for a date for next week, if that's okay. We're gonna go to page 2 on the top. Letter F, approval of minutes for the March 24th, 2021 regular meeting. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Meredith, seconded by Jimmy. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 2 is visitors. We do not have any visitors tonight. Number 3 is business items. Consent agenda A through C. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Meredith, seconded by Rob. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Letter 4 is personnel teachers, consent agenda A through G. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Rob, seconded by Jimmy. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Capel Eden?
Good evening. Out in the audience today, we have Mr. Frontino. Mr. Frontino was just approved by the Board of Education for tenure in a special education department here in Sachem over at Seneca Middle School. We'd like to congratulate him on that great accomplishment and all the work that he's done with us over the last 4 years. And it seems like, an adage, time flies when you're having fun. I think you really, hit that right out of the park. I remember all too well looking to try and find a special education teacher to cover leaves, one of those coveted certifications, special education with math, and even just kind of plodding along. And I finally got you from Sable Schools and got you in, and you were going into different leaves. And finally, we were able to get you into a probationary spot, and here you are now. So we welcome you. We look forward to great things from you, and congratulations on your tenure.
Yeah, this particular resolution just summarizes the list of all the capital projects that are both in the budget and in Proposition 2, which is the utilization of the capital reserve. That's the various roofing projects, toilet reconstruction, things of that nature throughout the district. Before you proceed with any particular capital projects, you need to determine whether or not there's going to be any environmental impact. This is the formal resolution just declaring, that we are the lead agency in this. We've looked at these items, and there's no environmental impact moving forward with these projects. I said that correct, Council?
Thank you very much.
That is correct.
On the top of page 14, number 8, donations. There was a donation by Sean Chamberlain. He donated 50 custom-made Desi Strong lacrosse uniforms for the Sachem North Varsity Boys Lacrosse Team. The approximate value of the donation was $3,000. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Meredith, second by Jimmy. Just like to thank Sean. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is
Thank you,
carried.
Mr. Chamberlain. Yes.
Number 9 is a budget transfer. Approval of budget transfer 50,000 or more. The total is for 750,000 for food service operations. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Meredith, second by Rob. Any questions? Please.
John, could you just tell the public what that's about?
Obviously, this year has been an unusual one, just as last year was. Our food service operation, we still have all of the normal expenditures that would come with running the food service program in the 15 buildings, whether that be the cooks, the servers, the staff, et cetera. But obviously, there's not the revenue coming in to support the program like it normally would. Our food service program is about a $5.2 million a year operation that is typically completely self-supporting. Unfortunately, last year and again this year, just due to the fact that either we had hybrid students, you only have half in at a time, and even with hybrid, you have a certain percentage, 10, 15, 20% are staying remote. You have families choosing not to utilize food service, and they're sending their child in with their own lunch. There's not the purchase of the a la carte snack type items that you normally would have. So certainly that takes a toll on the available revenue to operate the program. So this is the transfer to help support the program. Last year, we transferred about $1.1 million out of general fund during the year to support the program. This year, I would anticipate, since we're going through the entire year, it's going to be a bit more than that, but this is the money's needed now to support them through the next few months.
Please.
And I know that part of that is because we were able to feed a lot of the children that were home with the pickup lunches and things like that. Are we getting reimbursed in any way for those things?
Yeah, there is no charge to the public this year for food. It's being fully supported by the government. So it's not that we're not getting paid for those meals. Every meal that was provided to somebody, whether it was last year in the grab and go, or even this year when we've had different grab and go, or we have, some situations with remote families that come pick up their food. All of those meals are fully paid for, so that's not costing the taxpayer Sachem any money. It's just the fact that there isn't the full revenue of paid lunch just because you don't have as many students participating. And obviously, again, you don't have the revenue from the a la carte items.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 10 is the Committee on Special Education, Consent Agenda A through B. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Meredith, second by Rob. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 11 is monthly reports. Does anybody have a report? Sorry.
That the Budget Advisory Committee is planning on presenting at the April 20th meeting, okay, with their the findings and their summarization of how they went through the process and what they were recommending. But they're very impressed with the budget proposal that's presented.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Number 12, closing. I don't believe there's any speakers. As of right now, there's no board discussion items. I would just like to put one out there, and we just need to get a little more information. We talked about it. We were going to have it, but I want to make sure there's people here to answer questions and have a dialogue about possibly removing our schools as polling places in the future. So just so everybody knows, that's just pending more information from a bunch of different groups and different people in the community. Does anybody have any future agenda items? Please.
Did we have a letter that was going out to Bologna and Department of Health? Did we agree to that?
I did distribute that to the board for their review. I got some comments back from some of the board members. I got no negative responses, but I'd be guided by the board's will in that regard.
Because we have to adopt it here in public, don't we? I don't want to wait another 2 weeks.
That's been your practice. If you wanted to wait until you had a special meeting, if others haven't seen it yet, I'm not sure, but I'd be guided by whatever you want to do.
Yeah. It's up to you guys. We have enough here tonight. If there's no objections.
It went out this afternoon. I don't know if everyone got a chance. There was a couple changes. They were made. So I'd recommend that try to do it now.
Is there any objections to the letter?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Motion to send out the letter to Steve Balone and Dr. Piggott from the Suffolk DOH. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. As of right now, our next meeting is Tuesday, April 20th at 7:30 p.m. here, but be on the lookout for a special meeting next week. Can I please have a motion and a second to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing collective negotiations? Motion by Meredith, seconded by Rob. All in favor? Good night, everybody.
Good night, all. Thank you.